Wow, this eclipse season is intense, right? You feeling it? A lot moving this month. This is a big month, March, and it's still just halfway done right now. So we've got another big transit coming on March 15th when Mercury goes retrograde. On top of Venus retrograde, the big pileup in Pisces. Lots of big shifts going on around letting go of old identities, becoming a new version of yourself, which can be uncertain, can be scary, can be ego killing, but it's an opportunity for a lot of growth. So while Mercury is now retrograde in Uttara Bhadrapada in Pisces, there may be some confusion, there may be some setbacks. But this is an opportunity to cleanse, to recalibrate and realign with what matters most to you. This nakshatra, Uttara Bhadrapada, is ruled by Ahir Budanya, the serpent of the deep. So this is inviting us to go very deep and purge outdated thoughts, to shed old skins of superficial layers, to grow to a new level of ourselves. With Mercury, we're dissolving mental clutter. We're releasing illusions, Mercury and Pisces, that no longer serve our highest path. We are creating space to see more clearly, and that's not necessarily easy or comfortable. It might be simple in a way of just let it go. Just move on, just grow. Just live, just keep going. But there's an element of here, this whole transit, this Mercury retrograde, that is very deep and transformational, very powerful. With the eclipse just happening, we're in the eclipse season. This is a time where it's great to go into deep introspection, spiritual practices, psychedelic, ceremonial experiences, yoga practices, meditation, breath work, whatever allows you to go deeper within in a conscious, intentional way to get to the inner truths within yourself. So I am hopefully a helpful guide and finger pointing in the right direction for you to where to look, but only you can actually look and actually do that work and actually uncover those things within yourself. Nobody else can tell it to you. You can't read it in a book. You can't hear it on a podcast, but hopefully I can point you in that direction and say, if you're feeling like there's something that's ready to move and grow in your life, particularly around the sense of like letting go of an old identity, old beliefs, old ways of being. This is a time where you can become a new person. Like who you are now, people might even not recognize. Like if you were to like post a picture to Instagram of what your life is like now, it's like people are like, who is this person? That is potential, the possibility here. I know not everybody's going through that level of change, but there is that potential with the Pisces energy. And it's going to look different for all of us. But here I'm talking to the broad energy that we're all experiencing. And really, this period is cleansing and clearing the way for more clarity and purpose going forward. So in today's episode, we're going to cover these three phases of the Mercury retrograde. There's the time before, and then there's the time of the retrograde, and there's the time after. And each of these has a distinct energy. And those of you who joined the recent Venus workshop, I talked about this for Venus retrograde, but now we're going to talk about it for Mercury retrograde. And at the end of this retrograde, I'm actually going to be offering a really amazing program that I've offered a few times in the past, all about aligning with your purpose. So if you feel called to align deeper with your purpose, this is an opportunity over the next few weeks to clear away the stuff that's in the way of that. Like maybe if there's a job that you don't really love and you want to move into doing work you love, this is a potential time where you could start to transition out of that job. Or if you already have a job you love, you feel like you're living in your purpose, this is a time to deepen that and expand that and grow into a new level of that purpose. And I'll be offering something at the end of this retrograde in April all about this. So if purpose is something you're called towards, that's where we'll be going into it. I just recently hosted all this stuff about Venus and relationships. We're starting that program now. We're doing that work. If you missed any of that, just go back to the recent episodes. This is also throughout March is the time to work on relationships. But in April, after Mercury goes direct, it's a great time to focus on purpose, especially as Jupiter's transiting later this year. It's going to be really powerful in the spring and summer. So this is a time where in this Mercury retrograde cycle, you're clearing space, you're cleansing out old stuff, you're clearing your mind, and you're creating space to step into something new, like building your own business, doing your own thing, living in a world that is more aligned with your values and your beliefs, and sharing your gifts more openly. Of course, Mercury represents things like communication and technology and how we're sharing our ideas. So if you want to create some sort of online business or sharing something online, Mercury is a huge part of that. It has to do with marketing, business, communication, all these kind of things. So where this starts, phase one of this process is the pre-retrograde time from, you could say February 23rd to March 15th, but really I'd say it's March 1st to March 15th. And this is where you might start to encounter some confusion, some doubts, some anxieties coming up with Mercury in Pisces, some fantasies, some illusions coming up so that we can see them better, we can understand them better. And there may be some sense of lack of clarity, which direction to go. Mercury is logical and linear. Pisces is not logical, not linear. It's in the flow. Mercury wants clear direction. Pisces wants freedom. So there's a bit of a clash happening when Mercury enters Pisces. It's considered debilitated, but it's very, very good for spiritual communication, spiritual insights, talking about spirituality, communicating about spirituality, and growing on that level. So if you see all of your life as a spiritual practice, then all this stuff is just opportunities to grow. So when this happens, basically over the past couple of weeks, it's a good time to start to look back at the past couple of weeks until March 15th of like, what's going on in your mind? Is there a lot of mental noise, fear, confusion, doubt? I've talked to so many people this year feeling a lot of confusion as all this Pisces energy ramps up, especially with Mercury in Pisces. It's a time where you start to see your stories and your patterns with a little more clarity. And if you're not doing some sort of work on this, like therapy or men's work or women's work, I highly recommend to have a place to identify these patterns and beliefs and have space to work with them. It's a time where if you look back over the time before March 15th, February 23rd to March 15th, you can look at the intuitive insights that you've been gaining through meditation, through dreams, through reflection, also through learning. So Mercury is about education and learning and business and marketing. So maybe if you're learning about skills in business and marketing or skills about communication or just learning in general, you may be finding some powerful insights. And if you look back, you may have learned some powerful things that you want to make sure you remember and apply going forward. And ideally, you've spent some time to like declutter things, organize things, clean up things. If you haven't, then there's still time to do that in the second phase that we're about to begin here. And as you look back over this time, especially March 1st to March 15th, has there been any rushing into major decisions here? These decisions will likely need to have some flexibility and may need to shift, especially as the retrograde begins. Notice if you've overcommitted yourself, if you've taken on more than you really can handle, you may need to pare that back in the retrograde. And you may notice if there's any signs of exhaustion, you're pushing yourself too much, if you're feeling drained, tired, you may need to take this time in the retrograde to slow down and rest. Mercury likes to move very fast, and Pisces likes limitlessness. So you put those together, and you may have a lack of sleep, a lack of rest, difficulty going into this parasympathetic nervous system response, the rest and digest mode. I've certainly experienced that recently. I'm not complaining. I've had a lot of good reasons to stay up and have a lot of energy and really enjoy life. I've been having an amazing time. Life is very good. I'm very happy. Also, very deep, very powerful, very transformative for me personally. But I'm feeling more tired in general. So I'm looking forward to this retrograde as a time to slow down a bit. It's catching up a bit, but also not. It's like I'm surprised how much little sleep I'm getting and how much energy I'm still feeling. Because I do feel like I'm in alignment in so many ways, but not sleeping very much. So Mercury and Pisces could bring that issue as well, and all the Pisces energy. So that's the first phase, the pre-retrograde from about February 23rd to March 15th. Those are some of the themes we've been working with. Now we begin the actual retrograde, phase 2 of this process. This is where the real transformation begins. Uttara Bhadrapada brings so much depth to Mercury, to our intelligence, to our communication, to our subconscious revelations now coming up, like pure insights, very powerful. So that comes up when you create space for it. If you're distracted and busy all the time, then there's not space for it. So it's not going to come up as much. And you really just need to have moments of silence, quiet, walking alone, time in nature. No podcast, no music, nothing, just quiet. If possible, if that works for you, that's usually where these insights come up. And there's clarity that can come with this, a chance to rewire old mental loops. So neurons that fire together, wire together. And the more you repeat a thought and a feeling and a pattern, the more it gets wired into your brain, and it becomes easier to repeat that thought, feeling, or pattern. The same way, when you start to see it repeating and then you change it, now you're rewiring your brain, rewiring your whole body and your nervous system to now make new choices and new decisions. But that's not so easy all the time. But in the Mercury retrograde time, it's a little easier. It's a little easier to now see those patterns, mental loops and mental blocks and confusion and all these Mercury challenges I mentioned that may be coming up in the Mercury and Pisces time. And you can dissolve them. You can dissolve rigid ideas. You can dissolve things that are stuck in your mind and stuck ways of being and stuck ways of thinking. And this allows us to think beyond the surface into the world of imagination. As the famous Mercury and Pisces native Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than reason. And of course, he's known for science, but still, imagination is what he attributes a lot of his brilliant insights to in science and reason. But that's Mercury, but he has Mercury and Pisces. So imagination with reason. So this is now about a time of imagining your future, imagining your life, dreaming bigger, and dissolving stuck ways of being and old ways of being. Pisces likes boundlessness. Mercury likes to move quickly. So you could quickly change things and expand your boundaries into new ways. You may be more sensitive at this time. I've been feeling this. I'm like the most sensitive I've ever been, I think, in the last couple of weeks. And there's the eclipses and all this stuff going on this year. It's just big transformations. And just personally, just going through a lot of deeper layers of connecting to deeper parts of myself. But all the astrology just really supports that this year. So you may find yourself more sensitive, more inward, just feeling a lot, even nostalgic, thinking about ideals from the past potentially. But this is not the time to dwell on the past. With the retrograde, it can pull us backwards. It can pull us into thinking about the past from March 15th to April 7th. That's this phase. March 15th to April 7th, all these things are active. Subconscious revelations, deeper inner clarity, breaking old mental loops, dissolving rigid ideas, thinking beyond the surface, dreaming bigger, like Einstein would suggest, being more sensitive, and potentially looking back at the past ideas and things like this. And this is a very good time to look at past ideas and projects and folders and files and things like this and see what worked, see what you want to come back to, want to go deeper with. But it's a real cleansing kind of time, this whole retrograde with the Uttara Bhadrapada energy. It's cleansing, transformative energy, making space for new purpose and direction emerging in April. So what you want to do during this phase 2, March 15th to April 7th, revisit past ideas and projects and see what things you've been inspired about or creative projects you want to go back to and go deeper with. It's a good time to just focus on clearing and cleaning things up, like reorganizing closets, shelves, drawers, files, systems, processes, and creating more space, deleting stuff you're not using, donating stuff, selling stuff. All Mercury retrogrades are good for this. It's going back over stuff, creating more space. We need this natural process of expansion and contraction. Just like your lungs expand and contract, each graha has this potential energy. Not every graha goes retrograde and direct, but Mercury is one that is this time of slowing down the thinking, trusting the process, knowing that uncertainty is part of transformation, right? There's a point when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. There's a point in the middle where that caterpillar is nothing but goo. There's no caterpillar, there's no butterfly, it's just goo. And there's a point in all of our transformative processes in our own lives where we need to just be goo. And that can happen during the Mercury retrograde in Pisces here. And if you can have at least a day to just be goo, that's great. March 15th to April 7th. At least one day in there where you just relax. No agenda, no schedule, just relax. That's really beneficial for this. A lot of great scientists have their best ideas, like just taking a bath and then having this profound insight, eureka moment. A lot of great musicians talk about this, just like doing nothing, and suddenly their most famous song just comes into their head, and they write it in 2 minutes. This kind of thing is part of Mercury and Pisces, and part of this phase, March 15th to April 7th. Profound insights can come when you just allow it and don't try to force it. And if you're forcing it, you're trying to get some realization, you need to make some sort of answer. If it feels forced, it feels tense, just wait. Just come back to it. What's the hurry? Just focus on something else for a little bit. Come back to it. Retrogrades are about slowing down. But it's a great time for focusing on your healing, clearing things out, working on your self-worth. There's a sense of major ego death going on this month of March, of letting go of beliefs, letting go of ideas, letting go of who you think you are, so you can step into who you are now, who you really are, not who you think you are, you should be, or someone says you should be, but just what's really true now. It's different than yesterday, different than a year ago, way different than 10 years ago. It's a good time for writing. If you like journaling, I love journaling. I've journaled for many years. It's one of the most valuable things I've done for me personally. You might like just focusing on therapy, talking to friends, analyzing your dreams. Meditation and breath work are very favorable during this time. Mantra, very favorable. Exploring your boundaries. So you're going to be sensitive emotionally, and boundaries might be a little bit hard to define. Mercury's communication, Pisces is boundless. Maybe hard to know what boundaries you really need, but it's a time to explore that and maybe play with that. Mercury is playful and curious. So one thing I've learned over the years in working with like difficult things is if it feels heavy and serious and you're stuck, you can make a game out of it and just say, okay, for the next week, this is the game. This is the boundaries. These are the rules for just a week. And I can change it next week. I can stick with it if I want. Oftentimes people make changes in a way where it's kind of all or nothing. This is just the way it has to be now. And it feels heavy and burdensome. But if it's a game, it's just like, let's see what happens. If for 7 days, maybe I wake up every day at 7 a.m. and I do this routine, and that's important to me. And let's see how it feels after a week. Maybe you need a boundary with someone in your life. You don't communicate a certain way, or you do communicate a certain way. You try it out and then see what happens. And you get information, you get feelings, feedback from your emotions. And emotions are just feedback. It's like, okay, that felt good. Let's do more of that. Or that felt bad. Let's not do that. So this is an opportunity to explore your boundaries, be a little more creative of what you need in your life from March 15th to April 7th. 3 big things to avoid not focusing on this is don't force your productivity. This is a more inward time. So if things feel stuck, that likely means that they need to be paused, and it's okay. Come back to it when you're ready. The same thing again, like the scientific breakthroughs. So many of these stories, like they struggle, and then they just let it rest, and they take a bath, and then the insight comes. So there is an element of like, yes, work hard, focus on the things you're working on and what's important in your life, but also allow yourself time of doing nothing, laying in a hammock, laying in nature, just going for a walk, silence, no information, no inputs. Inputs are good, but all the time, not good. Silence is good, but all the time, maybe not the most ideal either. Maybe it is. Maybe you feel called to that, then enjoy. But it's also not a good time for making major purchases and investments when Mercury's retrograde. You want to avoid impulse decisions and impulse shopping. I have, just for myself, like certain rules, like if it's over $1,000, just wait a day. Like, is it really that urgent? Can you wait a day? Just if it's over $1,000 purchase or whatever the number is for you, $100, 10,000. If you really want it, you'll want it tomorrow. So you don't need to buy it today if you're on the spot and feel pressured. Just wait. Especially with Mercury retrograde. Any big decisions or changes, just give it a day. Now, it's not the best time to do things like booking flights or travel or important logical decisions or paperwork or signing contracts, Mercury retrograde. But again, if it's really necessary and you got to do it during this time, maybe you can give it a day and let it relax a little bit. And if possible, like just meditate on it or give it some space. Like don't rush into it, ideally. Often, if you do rush in, you'll end up having to redo things and you'll miss details and you'll have to go back over it anyway. And it just ends up you having to slow down at the tail of it rather than slowing down at the beginning of it. And ideally, during Mercury retrograde, you are focusing on things that are already in the works, continuing projects, picking up old projects rather than starting brand new ones. You want to watch out for like new ideas of like suddenly you're going to just quit your whole life and just start this new life as a musician or an artist or whatever. Just completely change your career and your life. Those kind of decisions are usually not long lasting after the Mercury retrograde. So if it's really calling to you and it feels like a strong yes, I need to do this, sure, explore it, try it out. But just know that the feelings might change a lot after a few weeks. So give it like a month before you make any big commitments or investments. And there may be some strong emotional triggers at this time. So you're more sensitive. So be aware of that. Everyone's more sensitive during this time. So be kind, compassionate to others as well. And you may need some extra time to process and release things and feel things that come up throughout this time. And finally, phase 3, post retrograde. This is April 7th to April 28th. And this is the window where I'll be offering the Thrive program, Thrive Online, teaching you how to live in your purpose and share your gifts with the world. So this is now, we're coming out of the retrograde. We've hopefully, before April 7th, we've cleared a bunch of clutter mentally, emotionally, physically around us. We are coming back in alignment with what matters most to us. We are creating space for deep insights and clarity. Like you've just cleaned up the clutter in so many ways, metaphorically, literally cleaned up the clutter. And now there's more clarity coming in. And Mercury's going to go to Mercury's going to go to Aries after April 28th. And it's going to move into now this more action orientation. Let's go, let's do it, let's start something, let's build something. And that's why I'm offering this program at the end of when Mercury goes to Aries, because that's a good time to focus on expressing yourself, sharing your gifts, stepping into your power, creating something, taking action, being bold, taking risks in a calculated way, in an intentional way. But before we get there, it's from April 7th to April 28th, we don't want to rush into anything still. So we want to ramp up into this and take those deeper realizations into practical reality. So you might realize you're wasting time on something that's not aligned for you. And now you start to take action on what is aligned for you. So now you're moving into action here in this window from April 7th to April 28th. You're stepping forward. You've got a new sense of purpose, clarity, more space in your life. And it's a great time for starting new projects and taking action. So you want to look at the insights you've gained up to April 7th and look at what actions are related to that. And if you have a sort of vision that you've clarified or something that you feel drawn to, an ideal, start moving towards that with actions. If there's some sort of conversation you need to have or contracts you need to sign or agreements to make, now is a better time to do it from April 7th to 28th. So now you're like committing to something. Before April 7th, it's a little riskier to commit to something because you may need to go back over. You may be not seeing everything clearly yet. You may not be thinking clearly. Your thinking needs to slow down a bit. And now after April 7th to April 28th, and now you can move forward and take more action here. And now you're getting more creative momentum. You're stepping into a new chapter of life. After all the transformation of March, it's a big month, so much shifting. You're in a new phase of life after March. So this is the time where you're beginning that new phase, April 7th to 28th, at the end of this retrograde period, going back over those last bits of Pisces and those last insights and intuitions. Really good, again, powerful dream insights may come up, meditation insights, spiritual insights, psychedelic practices, breath work, mantra. These are all very, very favorable, all the way up to really April 28th. You can continue if those practices are aligned and serving you. But really, in this window, now you're stepping into that new chapter. So it's the time where you can eliminate some doubt and fear and imposter syndrome and feeling stuck and overthinking and overanalyzing things. And you may have that issue with Mercury and Pisces. It's like difficult to see clearly. You're going to want to overanalyze things up until April 7th, really until April 28th. But you're moving out of this by the end of April 28th. And you may start to see old patterns. You may even repeat old patterns through this time of April, but now it's conscious. And now you're not just repeating it unconsciously, you're repeating it consciously. So now you have choice. And now you can do it differently. So this isn't just like delays, confusion, and setbacks like some people might say or might think with Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It's really a clearing process for something greater to come into your life. And by the time April arrives, you'll have a refined vision, a clearer mind, and more clarity to take meaningful action in your life. So this might be launching your own business, stepping into more leadership roles, stepping into more social roles, and greater connection with others, a greater integration of technology in your life, of information technology, AI tools, computers, new computers. If you need to buy new computers or tech things, by the way, wait until at least April 7th. I recommend. I would not recommend between March 15th and April 7th that you buy any new technology. If you can wait, wait. And you may be aligning deeper with your purpose here and just stepping this new chapter of your life with less mental noise, clearer direction, and ready to really just live more in alignment with your values and your beliefs and your ideals. Really cool stuff, really powerful stuff. So yes, review, revise, revisit. All the RE words are irrelevant during Mercury retrograde. So I like it. I like this time because it's time for clearing and cleaning stuff up and creating more space. Some people are afraid of it. Some people avoid it. And with this Uttara Bhadrapada energy, it's about going very deep, like not just clearing out your closet, but like clearing out your closet, like your subconscious closet, all that stuff from childhood and new levels of it. Like it's always there. There's always levels, but like this is the time to go very deep with it. So being in some sort of therapeutic container or program during this time throughout this retrograde is very favorable. New wisdom coming in, new insights, the Kundalini energy activating here with Uttara Bhadrapada. This is a time of transitions, letting go of the past, giving yourself space to rest, dissolving the ego, bringing more discipline and patience into your life, more spiritual transformation. Saturn actually rules Uttara Bhadrapada, so it's a very disciplined time, even though it feels like boundless, uncertain. It actually is the space to be consistent with doing the work that's necessary at this time for the deep growth. Big insights, big intuition coming in, deep emotions coming in. This is a powerful transit. It's a vulnerable place for Mercury to be. Mercury wants to be logical and linear in Virgo, where it's exalted. So our communication can just be to the point, like business oriented. Did you do it? Did you not do it? Yes, I did. And just get things done and everything's good. But when Mercury is in Pisces, it's like we got to go into the depths, into the feelings, the emotions, the uncertainty, the instability, and come out of it with more clarity and strength. It's a necessary evolution we go through every year, but not every year we get the retrograde. So this is about going back deeper into those things this year. Very powerful. And with everything else in Pisces this year, very, very powerful. Hopefully this episode gives you some insight and clarity on how to work with this. If you want to know specifically for you how to work with it, go to quietmindastrology.com/reading and you can schedule a one-to-one live reading with me. We'll look at your chart, your dashas, your transits, whatever you want to focus on in the reading, and it can be relationships, purpose, whatever. We'll go deep into it there and you get a recording and everything. I love doing the readings. I always get amazing feedback. We always get to go very deep, very quickly with people in those readings. You get lifetime access to the recordings and PDF and everything. And then coming up in April, I will be offering the Thrive Online program, which I've shared before. It's a great program to go deep into understanding your purpose and bringing out your gifts with astrology and with the practical, tangible steps of what does it take to create an online business, if that's something you feel called to do, sharing your gifts. And I've done this with yoga teachers, coaches, therapists, intuitives, healers, astrologers, people from all sort of spiritual backgrounds. So I'm bringing in the astrology, the Vedic astrology, spirituality, the yoga philosophy, and the very practical business mindset stuff that I've been on a whole journey of that. In parallel to my astrology journey, my yoga journey, my spiritual path, also a whole path of just understanding business, sales, and marketing. I did door-to-door sales. I did cold calling. I did all the stuff people hate about sales. And it sucks, but it made me grow a lot and understand like sales is really just service. It's just like, hey, I got something that would be helpful to you. Do you want it? No? Okay, thanks. Do you want it? Yes? Okay, great. Here it is. Here's how you get it. Right? It can be very simple. And there's so much charge around it, so much stuff around it that people have, but it can actually be very simple. And especially when you feel aligned with a calling in you and a purpose in you, it can be very beautiful and a huge service. It can be a major way of serving the world. And actually, to do it, you have to uncover your gifts. Like to do the work I do, I'm constantly learning and growing. Like I'm constantly on my edge of growth. And I like that. Not everybody likes that necessarily, but it's what I'm doing, I think, is the best personal growth path that I've found of sharing my gifts with the world, continuing to cultivate and excavate my gifts and my stuff, my shadow, my depths, my truth, my insight, my gold, all of it, so that I can share as authentically as possible and help you hopefully do some of the same and bring out your gifts in the world and connect to understanding yourself and your shadow and your gold and your light and dark and within you. And hopefully I helped do that. And if you enjoy the podcast, share it with a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, leave a comment on Spotify. And I look forward to sharing more with you soon. So stay tuned. The Thrive Online info will be coming out soon later on. You can schedule a reading and stay in touch and sign up on my website. You can sign up for your free birth chart, and I'll keep in touch with weekly horoscopes and exclusive offers there. So thanks for listening, and look forward to sharing more with you next time on the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast.